then last one I think we're going to watch for today before we do another Answer the Call, a second one this week. We're going to do the power play panel. And yeah, this, even after when I was on the podcast with Burks, we talked about like, I guess, not resource management, but actual resources like quantum fuel and things like that. And Jared was there and said, this is the system that will make that happen. I don't remember hearing much about that in this show, so I want to really pay attention to it and see what they have to say. But all right, power play. Let's see what we got. A little bit loud. Sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Dan Truffin. I'm Assistant Director for PU Content, and with Thorsten Leiman here today, we will be talking to you about something we think it will change the way Star Citizen functions and works and how the players will play the game in the future,
Dan.
and that is resource management. Resource management is the underlying system that allows items to produce, consume, and store resources in the game. It is the digital representation of real-life cables, pipes, tanks, batteries, or anything like this that you can imagine.
It's the foundation of the ships, where you have certain resources like fuel and energy powering certain items on the ship, but it's also the system that will lie below any station.
I wonder how it plays into mining and your bags and how much ore you have in that.
Or any vehicle, anything that you can imagine in our universe that actually requires a certain type of resource.
Resource management is not just a system that helps ships function. It is a thing that's integral to the functionality of the entire universe. It will be the way surface outposts function, underground facilities, space stations, landing zones, everything in Star Citizen will function using resource management.
So we will start with the smaller vehicles, and the gameplay for those smaller vehicles way more interesting than what we have right now. And from that, we can move on to like bigger ships, and finally the capital ships will have a real purpose in the world, and where it will have a real meaning that
it's a lot of
you have
steps.
the multiple roles inside those ships.
It will drastically increase the time to kill for all vehicles in Star Citizen, and it will encourage people to disable ships rather than destroy them. Missions like Siege of Horizon will increase in scope and scale up a lot more with the use of resource management, as players will be able to cripple resources, change the way resources are distributed, cut power, cut certain fuel and critical parts in order to progress further in those missions.
We can suddenly scale a lot bigger than what we have right now. And the reasons are that we have more control over the powers of certain platforms there, and we can introduce some interesting gameplay that facilitates these functionalities.
Resource management is going to open up the possibility of player structures, player-owned outposts on planet or stations in space, where the player will have to manage resources, bring in fuel, do repairs.
Player-owned space stations and outposts. Space stations is the key one. To hear that, my desk is rising. And I don't have one of those electrical powered standing desks that can go up and down, okay? It's literally my dick that's rising this fucking desk. I want to hear it again.
Or stations in space where the player will have...
It doesn't matter how long away it is. It matters that that is the intended game design. You can hear more about what the end game of Star Citizen may look like. EVE people are getting excited. You know, there's sounds like they've been having these conversations internally, and they're getting more comfortable sharing them with us externally.
Is going to open up the possibility of player structures.
Thank you, Selby. I assume you talked to them.
Outposts on planet or stations in space, where the player will have to manage resources, bring in fuel, do repairs. And this will not be something that only caters towards the engineer. This will be something that is valuable for everyone in the world of Star Citizen.
Resource management will finally allow players to build their own bases and their own homesteads and actually keep that loop engaging and fun.
And really, this is the main thing that makes multi-crew gameplay possible. We envision the players taking on roles like engineer, mechanic, tactical officer. And while you have your engineer trying to maintain all the resources functioning and flowing perfectly and all the items in good operation, you will have mechanics running throughout the ship, trying to change fuses, repair various things that have broken down. You will have.
This is the moment where you have like the sweat lord PvP people that, okay, that have been flying just light fighters for the last 10 years, essentially, realizing that they're going to need larger ships and realizing they're going to need people that aren't like them, right? That aren't just cracked at aiming and all these things. You're going to have some guy who you probably would have called a casual at some point in your ship working with you because he's the best engineer out there, right? There, like, I feel like that could possibly be a thing. I don't know for sure. I don't think it's 100% as I'm seeing in Twitch chat, but it certainly sounds like there's a possibility of that happening, and that's a really healthy thing.
Have tactical officers moving shields from one side of the ship to another in order to counter whatever incoming damage you have.
Sounds suspiciously
Obviously,
like
the
an
pilot
MMO.
is going to be doing his job, trying to move the ship out of harm's way. The gunners are going to be taking out enemy incoming fighters or other ships. This is how we envision this entire ecosystem just coming together and providing what we hope is true multi-crew gameplay. And for all of you out there that are waiting for the Idrises and Javelins and want to use these ships, this is the system that is going to make using those ships possible. So all that said, this is a really important system for Star Citizen, but let's dig into the details.
I think
and
there's
see
more
what
to
exactly
getting those
this
ships
is.
in game than just that, like the technical hurdles of them even existing. But yeah.
Resource management can be broken down into several key elements: power, energy, resources, life support, item maintenance, relay handling, access control, and gravity. So let's start with power, energy, and resources. The players can choose to overload items in order to get more efficiency out of them at the risk of burning them out. They can also underload items to save some resources if they don't need the full efficiency of an item. The players will have to pay attention to the balance of resources, power, fuel, coolant, heat generated, in order to maintain a well-oiled, balanced ship.
Level of detail.
And overall, prioritizing certain items and their resource consumption.
Life support is the most important thing you have to pay attention to in your ships now, since atmosphere is finite in all the spaces that you might discover. And here, the life support system is a key factor. Here, the life support, you have to maintain it, meaning you have to make sure that the consumables inside the life support generator are always there to make sure that it can generate breathable atmosphere for you.
Consumables.
Or the temperature is actually increased to a human livable factor, so you don't freeze to death or you are not cooked.
As part of item maintenance, the player will be able to control items throughout the ship, turn them on, turn them off. They will be able to remove broken items and replace them with new items. Or
I said this during the show, the fact that they even have a player animated and holding a what is that, a quantum drive, was like a big deal. Even if they did it just for this demo, that's a very important thing going forward for salvage and all sorts of stuff. Quadruple A Barotrauma, nah, man, Barotrauma has so much more depth,
sometimes
even than what they're sharing
items,
here.
Depending on their income. It will be able to control which sub-items are installed in those items, either as fuses or subcomponents that give them various bonuses to that specific item. They will be able to run repair gameplay and replace broken fuses when the item stops working or takes enough damage.
Relay handling is the actual management part that you, as the engineer on the ship, has to do.
This is the part I'm not as big of a fan with. But
basically defining these circuits in the most effective way, especially for bigger ships. So a relay is something that defines which items are connected to each other. And what we want to achieve here is allowing you to create the best possible outcome for your ship.
With access control, we're introducing ship roles. The captain will be able to assign certain roles to each of his crewmates, and for example, say one of the player becomes the engineer, which gives them specific access to certain controls, while the person that is the pilot will not have access to those controls. And
probably my favorite thing out of the whole event was like this, okay, you have this level of access nobody else does. I thought was really cool, and is essentially, I would imagine, the start of organization gameplay, right? Because if you can create access in your ship, you can create access for your inventory. You can create access for your hangar. You could create access for your outposts. You can create access for your station, right?
At the same time, a gunner will only have access to a specific gun or all the guns on the ship.
And finally, gravity. So gravity is the concept that you experienced already in every ship. So
yeah,
there's always
I think
down,
we know when,
always,
like never,
there's always
but
a down, there's always an up. And we would like to give you some
gotta start
control
somewhere
over that. So because it requires some energy, and if you want to run your ship more energy efficient, we want you to allow to switch off gravity. Or there might be other use cases where a zero gravity environment is more useful than another one.
So if it wasn't clear by now, the scope of resource management touches pretty much every aspect of life in Star Citizen. So we're doing a lot of talking, but I bet what everyone would like to know is, where are we with all of this right now?
That's right. Let's talk.
Currently, we have working in-engine prototypes of the following systems: power, gravity, life support, and the relay network. With a power system, we can overpower and underpower items. We can set the priorities of item producers and consumers inside the ship, and we can set the path of resources inside the ship through the resource relay network.
And with the power system, we already can distribute the base energy and base fuel throughout the ship. So we can make sure that
Here the player discovers a missing fuse, which has effectively cut the relay network in half.
each item actually gets,
and you can see this is all green. This side of the ship is not.
the resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy or the resources have to take throughout your ship.
I feel like we need a clear map of how it works. So that made the whole backside of the ship work, it looks like.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life support system, including making new players suffocate,
But then you fill it right back up after you kill them. Too
Fire
bad this
explosion.
person's already dead. It's cool to see the fire eating the O2 as well.
Change the temperature in each room.
Okay, so the engineering will have a, looks like a panel where you could see everything. What? I don't remember this. The fire's making the temperature go up.
Making new players suffocate. Venting and filling rooms with atmosphere.
I'm not sure what that one's trying to show, that there's so many people in the room that they're using up the oxygen. It looked like.
And making players suffocate again.
This guy's evil. I thought this was neat as well. The relay network is great for sabotage. Keep Scarlet off your ship. Keep Greasy Khaleesi off your ship. Yeah, Among Us.
In the last year, we've made tremendous progress with the resource management system, but with a system that is this big and complex, we do not want to rush it. We want to just get it right and get it right from the beginning. So let's talk about what's next for the resource management system.
All right. What's funny is everything that you just showed is what's next for the resource management
As you
system,
can
because
tell,
we don't
resource
have it.
management is a huge endeavor for us.
So like everything else, we'll probably not get everything in the initial release, but this is what we're aiming for. Interactable and accessible items on ships, relay gameplay,
Okay.
changing fuses on the relays,
That'll definitely be in.
resource balancing, defining control groups that will be accessible through the
I bet that's
NFVs,
the one thing that falls off.
allowing people to create presets for your resource network for each ship, an engineering UI with at least a list or schematic view of your ships,
Yep.
external engineering screen for ships, allowing engineers to define the tuning parameters that can be accessed by the pilot with the press of a button, like loading presets and creating presets.
Very
And
important.
after the initial release, everything else will fall into place with subsequent patches.
Guys, everything else will just fall into place. It'll be okay.
We started talking about resource management about 2 years ago. It is pretty much the evolution of what used to be the old pipe system. And This has been an interesting journey, and finally we're starting to see the fruits of our labor, and we're starting to see all the possibilities of gameplay that we can open up to the players in the future. It's exciting to work on something that's so central to the world of Star Citizen and that can impact the gameplay of so many people, irrelevant of what they choose to do in the world of Star Citizen.
Resource management is the most exciting feature that I've ever worked with. It's such a groundbreaking feature that will change the entire game from its core. I think we never had this opportunity to change the game into this direction where we are heading right now, where we will finally have all the tools in place to actually allow meaningful multi-crew gameplay and meaningful decisions for all the players, where every decision counts. This is the stuff that makes me really proud of what we are working on right now.
Thank you
Good
for
for him.
letting us share our progress with you, and we hope you're happy with all this progress, and have a nice CitizenCon.
It sounds like people like me, miners, cargo haulers, stuff like that might have some value, but it's hard to say when. It's hard to say how. I think again, a lot of this stuff is very CitizenCon of them, which is very look at all the cool things we're doing, but no. It's not for you now. It's not for you anytime soon, actually. It's not for you for quite a while. So that's the vibe that I got from this one a little bit, where it's big. It's going to take a lot more time, work, effort. They showed us where they are now. It's like complete white box levels, right? So I think we have quite a while before we see that in game. So again, I try to stay very calm and chill about it because I don't think I'm going to get much of a I feel like at times I'm going to feel like, man, we just need that and it's not going to be ready yet. So I'm trying to embrace it but not overhype. And yeah, seems really important, really good. They seem to really be on it. It's just a matter of not just when, but how and why and all these things. So it's going to be a while.